Hey YouTube, Poobslag here, and this is TurboFat, an open source puzzle game I'm making in Godot. Source code's linked below if you want to see how it all works. And this month I've been creating this Chocolava Canyon area, which involves a whole new story and a bunch of visual assets and animations, stuff like that. So let me show you what I've been doing. So this new area, I had to write about 20 little cutscenes for characters you meet and funny things that happen. And sometimes it's hard to be funny on command. It's not like, drawing 20 bushes. You have to actually have like, oh, what's a cool thing they could say or whatever. So one technique I use is I have just a big list of all these unused dialogue snippets that I wanted to throw in the game somewhere, and I'll just add to it now and then if I'll think of something funny. And then when it's time to write these scenes, I'll sometimes pull stuff out of there. So there were three areas I wanted to sketch for Chocolava Canyon. Firstly, the outdoor area, which was going to be themed on chocolate lava cake, but that's actually just fudge on chocolate cake, so it didn't have a very interesting color palette. Some people on my Discord, though, suggested strawberry lava, which I think works really well. For the indoor areas, I was going to have some of the scenes take place at a rivals restaurant, Carbcraft, and then some of the scenes take place on like this game show style place where people judge you and tell you if your cooking sucks. So the outdoor area had a whole lot of art assets to draw. In addition to the regular just goopy and ungoopy terrain and all the paths in the water, there was these animated volcanoes I wanted to make, these mushrooms which have fire on them, chocolate cakes around, and then all the different buildings. So this Zagma headquarters was a really complicated building, which was going to have a bunch of different parts. I sort of wanted it to sort of look like Bowser's Castle or something like that. And then a bunch of other restaurants, including one that has these flags in front, sort of like medieval times or something. I wanted it to have that feel. So the Zagma building itself isn't one big node. It's a bunch of different parts, like this animated sign, a bunch of these towers that are split off, and then one of them is connected with a bridge. And the reason why they're different nodes is partially for occlusion, where if like something's walking around, if you have like trees around it, if it was one big thing, then each tree has to be in front of the whole building or behind the whole building. So it can be a little janky yeah, if it's one big thing. And the other is the way shadows work in my game is it's just like an oval which goes under a thing. So if it's a giant nuanced shaped thing, it's going to have to be a giant oval for the shadow to work, and sometimes that just doesn't look very good. So this whole indoor area where you cook in TurboFat is already has a lot of assets for things like the kitchen area with the sinks and the stoves and the countertops and the plates and the floors and the drain and the wall decorations and the stools and the chairs. There's so much stuff. And I had to redraw it all for this Zagma area that I wanted you to cook in. And I was going to have to do it also for Carbcraft, but I ended up sort of deciding that wasn't worth it. So there's just going to be these two areas. But I think it's nice that, it'll give the final area a little bit of extra zing. So writing the cutscenes for this final area was especially challenging because I wanted a lot of the cutscenes to sort of feel like, oh, I remember this character from the beginning of the game, but you can sort of zip through the game and not meet a lot of the characters, in which case these scenes had to do something slightly different. So I already had the branching logic in place, but I added a flag that I could enter into my cutscene demo so I could easily test like, what if they haven't had this conversation yet and make sure the cutscene looks like it's supposed to. So for the last cutscene of the game, I wanted it to have some special logic where if you keep failing the level over and over, it'll play a slightly different cutscene and sort of give the player a break. But when I went to add this logic, it was going to go in a place that was really hard to test, and I didn't like the idea of having to manually test it by getting to the last level of the game, failing, getting to it again, and then seeing if a different cutscene played, because that was going to take forever. So instead what I did was I pulled out this small testable piece which just decides which cutscene should play here. And once I pulled that out and wrote some unit tests against it, I could add this other logic which says stuff like, if it's the last cutscene of the game, do this special case. And I can make sure that all worked before I put it in the game, and then manual testing was easy because it all worked on the first try. So yeah, that's what we did in October and November. We had a lot of drawing to do, both for all the indoor and outdoor areas of Chocolava Canyon. So we got through all that. There were a bunch of cutscenes, and those were all finished. There's a little bit extra I want to do, like after the credits or as a reward for beating the game, just to reward the player and make them feel nice. Haven't gotten to that stuff yet. That'll do next year, I think. But for next month in December, I specifically want to work on the puzzles for this area. I have a few cute gimmick ideas, specifically cheese pieces. I have some new shapes I want to try. We'll see if levels work out well for those or if they're just a nightmare like everything else. In the meantime, if you want to let me know what you think of the game, I'd love to hear it. We have a community Discord where you can make your ideas known. And the game is still free to play on itch.io if you want to try it out. Otherwise, I guess I'll just see you guys next month. And thanks so much for tuning in. Take it easy.